What happens when law, business, and life collide? Each week on Lead Counsel, your host Tom Tona will take a deep dive into topics related to the law, the business of law, and life. There will be insightful discussions with industry insiders, experts, and thought leaders making significant contributions and meaningful differences in their fields of expertise. Tom is the founder and managing attorney at TonaLaw. He has been a practicing attorney since 1994 and the leader of TonaLaw since it opened in 2001. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with free information on law and the business of law, and to give you actionable tools related to each of these areas. Now, here's Tom.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Lead Counsel podcast. We are here with Juliet and one of my favorite people of all time, Ryan McKeen of Best Era Consulting. What's going on, Ryan?
Hey, Tom. I'm with one of my favorite people, Tom Tona. So happy to be here and so happy to be with Best Era.
Awesome. I'm excited, man, because you went public with the news that you founded Best Era, so we'll jump right in.
Well, welcome back on to the podcast for the second time.
Yes.
Excited to have you.
Yes. So this is the second time Ryan's on the Lead Counsel podcast. First time he was on, he talked about the $107 million verdict he was part of. So I'm super excited to have you on now, Ryan. So give us a little background really quick. So you're no longer in the law firm that you were in, correct?
That is correct.
And are you practicing at all anymore? I think you said you have like a small number of like boutique cases right now.
Yeah. I mean, so many people, first of all, I love being a lawyer. Like I got into being a lawyer to help people. And really, actually, as I scaled the firm, I got more and more further and further away from actual lawyering. I would do first I did everything. I did litigation, trial. Then I just did pre-litigation, and then I just did intake, and then I did nothing. So I've loved being a lawyer. I've loved helping people. I've loved personal injury law. So many people know me as doing that. So right now I have a very small firm. I am a solo I have 2 cases. I'm only ever taking 5. And I'm going to refer everything else out that is just not for me or not a fit, or I don't have the capacity to handle it, and really just focus on the consulting.
Okay. And so let's talk about Best Era LLC. You started this journey publicly probably in the last 30 days, 45 days?
45 days, yeah, beginning of June.
And immediately I was super excited, and then I joined the group, and I've already sent over a few people that I said, listen, you're asking me questions, just sign up. It's less than the price of a cup of coffee, especially at Starbucks. It's a fraction of the price, a small fraction of the price. Just sign up. And I got a call yesterday from the guy I referred over to you, Rory Pendergast. He just signed up. He said, holy crap, dude, I was blown away. I cannot believe what is going on that Slack channel. So describe what brought you to the point of founding Best Era, who your founders are, and what's got you most excited about it.
So what brought me to the point of founding Best Era was really that I went to college wanting to be a teacher. Like I wanted to teach history, and I realized like it just wasn't for me. Like it felt a little too small. No disrespect to the teachers, but just for my ambitions, like a classroom itself, I needed a bigger classroom than one with say 20 students in it. So I decided to go into law, and I've always enjoyed teaching, whether it's presenting or masterminds or I've done consulting or coaching through Lawyerist over the years. And I've always really enjoyed the business side of law, teaching lawyers the business side of law, and helping scale sort of on a per project basis with other firms. So I had the opportunity to sell my interest in the firm, and that role was very big. I mean, that was all consuming when you're the CEO of a firm of 40 people and all sorts of things going on. And when I had the opportunity, I was like, well, what do I really want to do? I'm 44 with my life, and it was to teach. And so doing Best Era consulting made sense to me. It's something that I've always sort of had my eye on. I'm able to also teach at UConn Law this fall, so I needed a team to help me do this. And so Brittany Green, who was my right hand at Connecticut Trial Firm, who handled our marketing, she came over with me. And Allison, who is my wife and also my right hand, she did finance and operations. So we felt like that between the three of us, that gave us a very broad background to be able to really dig in and help firms. So they're my co-founders, and yeah, that's where I am.
That's incredible.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, it really is. And you know, from a organizational standpoint, you kind of got a turnkey business ready to roll, right? You've got finance, operations, marketing, the three big silos, plus the the delivery side of what you have been doing for a very long time, consulting. I attended one of your conferences, and so you've also, I think, what you bring to the table, have done the thing, right? You have done the thing of on two fronts, being a significant part of a massive 9-figure verdict, and also the business side of it, right? So being a part of those two things, you've got a real depth of knowledge that you can bring value to people tremendously. I know I reached out to you, right? Because of you. I'm sorry, I was going to say,
No, it's
go ahead, Jules.
So just to clarify, Best Era is a consulting company for other law firms. Do you want to like kind of elaborate on what exactly you guys are going to be doing?
Yeah. So our goal, our vision is really to try to impact 10,000 people in the legal community. And so we don't do just law firms. We consult with legal tech companies. We consult. We're working on a project with Get Staffed Up right now. Something that we're really thrilled to announce, and we're helping them with some training, some market positioning, and ultimately helping them build a vertical in their business that we're pretty excited about. And
Oh, that's awesome.
we also do we do individual consulting. So, well, I mean, our tagline is, building the future of legal one dream at a time. So different people come to us with different opportunities, whether it's that they want to scale their firm, they want to double their client base, they want more predictability in their firm, they want systems in their firm, they want to build something. And what we will do is, we're not doing talk. We're like, let's get into the project, let's give you deliverables, let's produce based upon what we know, what your needs are, and let's make this really a targeted sort of help, as opposed to and look, there are so many people in this space, and there's so many people who do it well. We felt like this isn't an area where we want to compete, where we're necessarily developing like a coaching program and trying to fit people into it. We're like, hey, you have this thing going on, let's work intensely for however long that takes, do that thing, and then we're on sort of an as needed project basis.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, man. So, for good or for bad, you shook the foundations of my law firm meeting you, right? Just meeting you, and me having epiphany in the middle of the night, 3:00 in the morning, that I did not have the law firm I wanted on the personal injury side, right? And I was determined at that point to return us to trial roots. Not saying we're going to try every case, but saying we damn well better A, be willing to, and B, be able to, right? And then if the attorneys that were there either did not want to or could not, then we were going to see that be fixed. So I did that, right? I built a trial firm, and I have a killer trial lawyer, a senior trial lawyer with a ton of verdicts under his belt. And I just hired another person to the team, and now the team's going to be complete, right? And I'm super excited about it. So now I got cases coming up for trial, big dollars. And I said, I attended your conference that you held on the importance of focus groups. And you must have said the word focus groups 100 times during that, 8-hour day. So I was like, well, I don't know how to run a focus group. I'm old school. I mean, I just go in, pick a jury, try the case. But there's a more scientific way to do it. That's when I reached out to you in terms of the consulting you provide. And transparently, you sent me the proposal to help us not only run the first focus group to test all the theories we want to test, you're going to build out the system for me, which is exactly what I was looking for. So I would tell anybody that's listening to this, you don't have to recreate the wheel. You guys have done so deep on so many different levels in your prior experiences that, first of all, join Best Theorist chat group, right? I'm sure it's going to expand beyond that. You've already got like 150, 200 people that are part of it. Again, I know the cost goes up. What is it? $365 for the first year if they sign up now?
That's right. And a quarter. We charge $1 a day, and there's that extra quarter day.
Right. So the guy I was talking to, he was like, hi, I want to talk to you. We've been talking for like half an hour. And I was like, dude, listen, hang up the phone, go join this group. And he did. Right. And he wrote me and said, holy crap, I did not realize the wealth of information that would be available in a Slack format where literally you could just ask any question that crosses your mind any given point of the day. Right. What's my marketing spend supposed to be? What percentage of revenue? I said, well, look, here's my opinion, but put it out to the group. See what the consensus is, right? I'm sure you have your own opinion on it, Ryan. So I think this is really unique in the format you're doing it. And I do see a ton of opportunity. I know you're working on a book as well. You want to give us the name of the book? Have you made that public yet?
The book is called The Way. And first of all, thank you so much for your kind words, Tom. So the idea of the Slack community was really born because when I started, I didn't have any money. And one of the first ways I invested in my practice was doing the Rosen Institute, which is a Slack community. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm learning from a whole host of people like Jay Ruane or like Billy Tarasio, who is a co-author of Tiger Tactics, and Elise Bowie, and all these people. We're all together and we're all trying to do the same thing and build our firms. And I was like, well, what if we gave back in that way? And so as we kicked around the idea, we're like, well, maybe we charge $400 a month. And there's a lot of similar groups out there that charge that much, $500 a month. And I said, well, look, we've got to market our business somehow. We can spend a whole lot of money and time going to conferences, or we can just do what we know we can do and add obscene value to people and grow our business that way. So we're like, let's make it $1 a day. Let's make it completely accessible to folks who want to do it. And let's just give more value than they could hope for. And the idea being, or the hope being, that leads to more business for us down the road and is a way for us to engage an audience.
Yeah. And I'm a huge advocate of all things marketing, social media, all of that stuff. But literally, I open LinkedIn over coffee, and the next app I'm opening now is Slack, because that group is so fast moving too. So I happen to get a bunch of PI referrals back to back in the span of, an hour after being on the group. But literally, if you're not checking it, you're also missing some opportunities where somebody's like, hey, do you have a Long Island attorney? And all of a sudden somebody else might be answering, right? And you're not going to this is not a cutthroat group. It's just however it rolls out, it rolls out. But man, it's got me paying attention to this app. Like
That's also like the best marketing tactic too, just like providing that value so people see it and then want to sign up even further into what else you have to offer. But I know we were mentioning your book as well, so I do want to touch back on that.
Yeah. Thank you, Jules, for bringing me back to that.
Of course.
So one of the things, and Tom, you're a huge EOS proponent, and as am I. But one of the things that I've done, having worked with law firms over the years, and even in my own, EOS can be a little hard to implement for especially smaller firms. Look, when you're the size of TonaLaw, and you can have an implementer and visionary, and you have somebody running finance and marketing and HR, and you have a leadership team that you can coalesce around, I think traction becomes very, very much easier to run. So what we've done is tried to strip away and add some flavor to traction for sort of smaller businesses and smaller firms. And we've tried to also give some clarity and some flavor. So instead of just saying, well, go over, know your numbers, it's like, well, here are the numbers that you should be reporting on every single week. Here who is, here's what you need to be thinking about for who's on your leadership team. We also did things like shorten some of like the level 10, where traction EOS calls a level 10, to weekly meetings that are about 30 minutes. We have a form that encourages people to submit ideas beforehand, and any resources that are necessary to discuss. Why do we do that? Because having worked with introverts, like having things just sprung on them may not get you the best response. And also, sometimes we would raise topics at the firm leadership meeting and be like, well, we have to look into that. So it's like, hey, you're vetting some new software. Here's a link to the software. Here's here's a Loom video to do it, and sort of prepare a little bit in advance in a way that the level 10s don't contemplate. We've changed up the employee evaluation form to, I think, simplify that. So give people downloadable content. And the goal here is to make the book like 30, 35 pages small. So people aren't, lawyers have a lot to read. And the idea is, here's a 300-page book. It's too much for them. Here
Right.
you go.
Right.
Here's 30 pages. Here's what you need to know. Here's how it's distilled. Here are the forms. And we have linked it up with 90.io. We built out templates for what we're doing there. And our goal is to help law firms build an operating system that may be more accessible to them.
Yeah, and I think they're not mutually exclusive. While I am an exclusively EOS system, I already downloaded your form so I can modify it, because I think it's a super simple, super effective form that I kind of been looking for to implement for my employee reviews and quarterly conversations.
See, you downloaded the form that we built for EOS, but we're building one even a little bit differently for our way. That I was just actually working with Brittany on
Gotcha.
this
Okay.
afternoon,
Okay.
and so that's to come. But yes, no, but it's simplifying the process. Here's the review form. Here's the meeting agenda. Here's this. Here's the KPI that you want to be thinking about, and trying to move it forward in a way that I think is useful for law firms.
Yeah, and listen, but I think what you're rolling out, and I see a lot of the people on there, I recognize a lot of the names. There's a lot of big players on there, a lot of people that are doing EOS, but it's not exclusive. I mean, I have learned so much from you just from following you on LinkedIn. Like, and I got to give you credit on a bunch of different fronts. One, a lot of us have talked about where law schools fall short in preparing lawyers to own businesses, right? I think yours is the first class of its kind where you're teaching a business for lawyers class in law school. And if it's not the first, it's one of the first, because it's groundbreaking. I wish they would have had an entire 3 years of it in law school. I would have taken it all 3 years.
See, and kudos to that for Ebony Nelson, who's the dean of UConn Law School and a true, I think, visionary in the legal education space, and has done a fantastic job at UConn Law. I'm not a UConn Law alum, but I'm incredibly impressed with her and the work that she's done. And Ebony follows me on LinkedIn, and she said, yes, law schools. She said exactly what you said. Law schools don't teach this stuff, but law schools should. And I want this at UConn. Come work with me.
That's awesome.
I said, Ebony, I said, I'm a little, I'm not your typical sort of professor.
Right.
And I said, do I have, she's like, no, you have complete total freedom on how you want to teach this course. I said, awesome. I said we're gonna have a great time and learn a lot. So develop. I was emailing them about uploading my syllabus today. But what I'm doing as well is we're building an online course for Best Era called, Basecamp. And so it's for like the fundamentals of running a law firm, where we're going to put in videos, resources, a whole host of things. And also people who join will have access to our Slack group for sort of ongoing support. So that's our way of trying to sort of help people at scale. Well, because there's only three of us and we can't just give time for money. We can't achieve
Right.
that goal that way.
Right. And
So
it's funny because I was going to ask you, I think we're a lot of in the legal space coaching entities, I think where they stall is the scalability. And what you just said, you did that analysis before you even announced the business. You knew. And listen, you're a brilliant marketing guy too. Like, there's worse things than having captive audiences at law school who then go on to graduate, become lawyers, and then want to stay connected to Best Era, right? So like there's multiple things that I so appreciate about what you've done, both from a business perspective, the forethought, the giving back perspective. And I mean, again, you are always a value first leader, right? Like your first drive is always provide insane value and the rest will take care of itself. And I remember you were like that when you were running the law firm and with your clients, and how you sacrificed so much of yourself in the quest to provide value, saying the rest will take care of itself. And that's amazing what you're doing.
yeah, well, thank you for the kind words. And I mean, I see the same thing in you and what you're doing, and certainly making the investment in trial firm and building up trial lawyers. Like that is a huge investment in adding value to your clients. And I mean, ultimately, look, in PI, the interests are aligned. So if you add value to your clients, it should correlate to you. But it's really not all firms do that, and people don't know that. But it's a prioritization and a focus that I think I think so often in life, like the right thing and the money align. Not always, but I think so often, and I think it will there. So our goal is, yes, to offer a lot of as much value as we possibly can to whoever engages us, sort of at any price point. So we do look to develop like some subscription packages that are going to be more mid tier. Yeah, I mean, the consulting work where we're doing it, it's like, nope, because one of, I think, our things here too was we don't want to grow this. And I say this now, and my wife's like, Ryan, I don't believe you. But I'm like, we don't want to grow this to being a very large team. So we sort of want to work within the constraint to say, but it also just gives the flexibility. Hey, look, I want to do this, but I can't get to this for 6 months, or please go see somebody else who may be better suited to do this at this moment, because I'm unable to take on this project because I'm honoring the commitments that I've already taken. So that's where we are.
Yeah. But I also think that, because of the diversity I'm already seeing in the community shaping up, there's something for everybody if you're in it with the right mindset, right? One, like I showed up immediately and I'm not asking for anything. I'm just weighing in. And as I told Rory Pendergast yesterday, who signed up, when I said, please, Rory, do yourself a favor, sign up for this. All the questions you're asked will be answered within the next 8 hours. As I told him, like, I just am a fast mistake maker. I make a lot of mistakes. So if I can help other people avoid those mistakes, that's what I hope to do, right? Like that's how I hope to provide value is, listen, I've gone down this road with this payroll provider or this 401k provider, or the multitude of thousands of mistakes I've made over the last 25 years. So shift gears for a second. I know the story behind it, but I want to tell people, what's the story behind the name Best Era?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer your question, but I'm gonna stop and touch on something here. What Brittany and I were just talking about this, where there's magic that happens in this group, because you have people who are thinking about starting a law firm. You have people who have started a law firm a week ago, And they ask questions. I mean, they're not like simple questions. They're actually really complicated questions, but they ask like basic questions like, can you do this? And there was one discussion about scaling essentially, I'm going to misphrase it, but absentee ownership of law firms or law firms running on autopilot. And it sparked a whole host of different discussions from people like Tom, who's got a lot of experience, other people who may have tried some things, and you sort of got. I love that dynamic because anytime you have new, it like forces things. And I was driving home trying to get pizza after getting pizza that night, and I was like, "Can I start a bankruptcy practice that runs by itself?" Right? And what does the math look like? What do I need? What is the cost per lead? And so it opens up some fun dialogue. Now to answer your actual question, Tom, the name Best Era comes from as Brittany and I were branding this, we're just like, well, what are some words that come to mind? We started just doing words. We're like better, like because we're like, what do people want? Like what at the end of the day, what do lawyers or legal tech companies or legal adjacent companies want? They want something better, but better doesn't quite brand very well. So we're like, well, how about best, right? And we didn't want to do it. Like we started with the assumption that not everybody who comes to us is directly looking for more money. So we didn't want to put like money into it, though ostensibly most are, but that may not be their full intention. So we're like, well, they're not just looking for money; they're looking for maybe more time off, a more predictable law firm, better clients than they currently have, or they're looking to expand into some vertical or create something. So we decided on Best, but Best isn't in itself a name of a company. And we're like, well, they want to make it their best era. And it was a riff on Taylor Swift. The Eras Tour, Britney's a big Taylor Swift fan. And that's how the name Best Era came about.
That's awesome. It's funny because I'm a 14-year-old girl dad. My daughter's 14.
Same.
And I know your daughter, I think, is around the same age, right?
14.
And it's amazing that two dads, middle-aged white guys, are. If you think about Taylor Swift, she's such a great role model, and she's such a brilliant business person.
Mhm.
And so, I like you, I'm a Swiftie, right? So I say that with no shame in the game.
Nope. So nope. And so yep. So we are, and we're like, if we can, we can catch some of Taylor's wind or whatever in our sales. Maybe we'll have a great business. So that's how the name Best Era came about.
Well, look, I think you're laying down such a solid foundation. I thought it was brilliant. At first, I was like, how's that going to work with a Slack channel? And then I was like, oh, this is like direct discourse on significant points that you wouldn't have on a social media channel like LinkedIn. And people are giving solid input. Everybody that's weighed in on any of the points, it's just been so solid. And I know you have a webinar coming up in an hour. I believe it's a 1 hour live stream with Brittany, right?
Yep. Brittany is doing one on marketing ideas at low cost, high impact marketing ideas.
And I love that.
So
Awesome.
Yeah, it's immediately actionable.
that's the thing. And one of the things that we see is we see two things. One of which is we come from the personal injury space, which, as you know, Tom, is incredibly competitive. I mean, just absurdly competitive and getting more competitive and expensive by the day. So we built a firm sort of doing small ball. And what we found, even as we scaled and went on TV and billboards, was the smaller things actually had the bigger impact. And yes, having the commercials brought some recognition and put some wind in our sails. But, the things that we did and the choices that we made really helped drive leads in case signups tremendously. So we come from that, but we're also seeing, as we work with firms, like, personal injury lawyers may be 10 years ahead, but, family lawyers are looking and going, hey, I could do this too. And you're starting to see family lawyer bills and things like that. So the idea that all of these, like, essentially every lawyer who's consumer facing and has what I would say some like non-niche practice is really facing, I think, increasing demand for attention. And whether it's TikTok, they're competing with the baseball all-star game, the elections, whatever's going on, there's just a lot of demand. So how do you cut through that and turn people who from interest into ultimately satisfied clients and ultimately money?
Basically, if I heard where you were going with that correctly, it's how do you cut through all of the options, all of the noise in the fight for attention, and what will move the needle the most is what you're basically going to be looking to explain, both in this webinar and just in the macro at best era.
Correct. And how do you push the buttons that are designed to give you sort of what I mean, one of the I don't know where I picked this up, but one of the simple matrices when you're running a business is to do things that are easy to do and have the biggest impact. Easy, big, index. And it's like if it's not expensive, doesn't take a lot of time, and moves the needle, like that's where you need to focus it. And you're also going to have a list of projects that may be big amounts of time, big impact, but at least initially start picking some of the low hanging fruit. And so the ideas that she's going to talk about are some of those things that you can implement quickly or easily or not at high cost.
Yeah, as somebody that does a lot of higher cost indexed marketing, advertising, SEO, all of that stuff, I'll be on that conference because what I realized is I was looking for scalability. So a while back, I was in a networking group. There were like maybe 30 people in there. And I was like, this is just not scalable enough for me. But now I'm in the same networking group in a different location, and it's got 100 people in there. And I typically, out of this group, will pull mid 6 to 7 figures in fresh business annually. And my epiphany recently was you got to do both. You got to do the little, you got to do the big, what you can afford, right? And so it's a great refresher. And if somebody like me, after 30 years of doing marketing at every level, is going to spend the time for a webinar like that that's included in that membership, anybody that's listening to this, go sign up. Go sign up for Best Era before the price goes up August 1st. And even after August 1st, I know you, Ryan, what's the price after August 1st?
$3 a day. So it'll
$3 a day. So less than $1,000 or about $1,000 a year. And I mean, Rory's exact words say it best. The cost of membership paid for itself in the first 2 hours he was on the Slack channel. Like, think about that. Like, it's absurd. You'll be at 1,000 members in no time, honestly.
We're going to cap it at some point. We don't know when that point is, but that will be a thing. That will be a thing as well. So yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, look, I hope in the future, because I'm a big proponent, you know me, with the live masterminds and all of that. I mean, with what is going on in this channel that I find so special, it's crazy. Ryan, it is the second app I use after LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn. I write my post for the day. I open up the Slack channel, and then the Slack channel, it's literally, I'm looking at my other screen. It's open all day. It's literally open all day. And so I would urge anybody, like, I know when something's going to take, and I know when something's going to take off and be magical. Like, I'm already seeing what's going on in this. It's crazy.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
So, yeah, I'm super excited. I know that I've kind of studied your model over the years that I know you, and I know that your wife has a background in data analytics. So I'm super excited for the KPI projects that could be launched with her. And Brittany is a real deep on the marketing side, so she's going to bring the goods. I mean, you've got all of the formula for this special chemistry, plus 3 of the greatest people I know. Right. So yeah, like, so how could you not be this? You're going to be in demand. It's going to be impossible to cap it because people are not going to want to miss out on it. And you're not the type to ever deny people. Right. Like, so I think it's special. I do. I think what you're doing is very special.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Tom. And I mean, the Slack community for us was just this was an idea, and we looked at it for sort of like big easy, and it was like, well, if we can set up Stripe payments and we can set up a Mailchimp landing page, we know how to set up Slack, and we can make this go. So I mean, we don't have a website, we don't have anything going on in that. We just basically have the link I will share on LinkedIn or my profile to a Mailchimp landing page.
Right.
And so it allowed us to at least test and get it off the ground, and also just figure out like what is the demand for us, like what traction are we going to have, where are we going to be able to go with this. So it was in a way proof of concept or testing concept, so to speak.
Well, I'll tell you how I've been using it. I have people all day long, and I try to be as giving as possible with my time, but my time's so limited. So I'll have people drop me a text. Hey, listen, I'm trying to figure out what I want to be at this point in my business. And I'm like, do me a favor. You got to sign up for Best Era first, because while I can easily tell somebody my trajectory from 750 to 3 million, it's going to take a long time. There's too many moving pieces, and they can get so much fundamental feedback from the group, right? And then if they want to jump on a call after, I'm happy to do that, but it allows for scalability of attention that people would not otherwise have for $365 right now.
So, and I think for us, Tom, I mean, it's important that we are, one of the things I've worked with law firms and tried to help them with traction. They have a very difficult concept of vision. They have a lawyer's visionary. It's like, ugh, it feels very icky to them,
Right.
or out of reach. What do you mean I'm supposed to see 10 years down the road? Like look, there are lawyers like you or Jay Ruane or Billy Tarasio or Seth Price, Mike Morse. They all get it, but these are freaks in this space, right? Like, no, these are total freaks. And so what I would find more often than not is if I explained it to them like they were taking a trip. Okay, so you're going to go to Iceland, you need to pack rain gear, and you need to book Iceland Air, and you need to do this, which is totally different than if you want to go to Costa Rica, which is tropical and warm, and all of these things. Both places have volcanoes and are incredibly nice to visit, but they're very different places. So what we call, in the way we instead of vision, it's called your destination. And we encourage people to look out 5 years instead of 10, only because that 10-year thing, every time I've asked a lawyer who's not one of these freaks that I just mentioned, and I almost literally confine it to the people that I just mentioned, they get a deer in headlights look. No, I want you to think 5 years. And so what we're trying to do is help them get to their destination, give them tools through the book, the course, and the support in the community that makes it very, very accessible. As you know, I mean, when you get to a point in traction, to really make it go, hiring an outside implementer is amazing.
Yes.
We hired Kate Nikazel from Fireproof. It was amazing. But at that time, first of all, we were spending a ton of money to do that.
Right.
Money well spent. But we were also 35, 40 people with revenues to support that growth.
Right.
And most firms don't hit that.
Right. And look, I second that. I think that's where what you're doing fills a real need. Here's the other need that I think it fills. I talk to so many people, and I get the most complimentary things about this podcast. But I get some funny feedback like, dude, your podcast is making me crazy. You got a guy who took a 9-figure verdict. You got 8-figure players on there. And so my advice was, listen to the podcast, but the key to the people that are on there is really their self-awareness. I want to be an 8-figure player, so I'm willing to do everything that comes with it. And I think what your community provides is for people to figure out what they want to be. You could be a solo with one paralegal and make $3 million a year and be thrilled and never have to be an 8-figure player with the sleepless nights, the stress, the agita, all the stuff that comes with it.
Exactly. And that's why it's like your best era. It is specific to you and what you want to do, and doesn't start with the premise that there's a right way or a wrong way or a better way or a worse way, or that, you're going to be happier at scale. I mean, and we talk to people all the time. They're like, they don't want to be the CEO of their law firm, and they like to be in the courtroom. Awesome. Like embrace that. Let's figure out how we can build structures around that. And you said something about this, and I think it's just part of my upbringing. Like, Tom, I grew up doing legal work. I called bus law. We were on a bus stop in East Hartford, Connecticut, and I would get the clients who would walk off the bus and decide they need a lawyer. So for years I had a general practice of all sorts of things. I represented people who were involuntarily committed, and I was paid $50 an hour by the state. I represented somebody one time who liked to pee where they weren't supposed to. So I go to the court. I go to court one day, and they go, "Oh, you're here on the Wiener Wagger," and I go, "Oh boy." And then when I started doing personal injury cases, it was like, have I settled personal injury cases for $450? Absolutely, I have. There was a foreign object in a Burger King burger one time. But what I realized is, in order to make that transition to sort of who I could become or wanted to become, I needed to associate with people who are doing that thing. And so you have to start, if you're listening, understanding that whether it's trial work or business, there's nothing magical about the people who succeed at the highest levels of any of this. I mean, they come in all shapes and sizes. Some are slick, some are polished, some look like they're disheveled. There's every which thing. But what they all have in common is they're all incredibly curious. They're always learning. They're lifelong learners in what they're doing. They're always open to feedback. They're always around other people who are doing things. And what they're really trying to do is they're trying to find playbooks for this. And they're trying to execute on those playbooks. They're not trying to invent playbooks necessarily. It's about the execution of those things. So when I started taking on higher value PI cases, I was like, well, I've got these death cases. Like, I want to do this kind of work. If I refer them out, I'm always going to be going to court for the Wiener Wagger. And so I said, you know what? I said, who are the top trial lawyers in my state? And it's people like Josh Koskoff. And I said, well, what do they do? Well, they seem to learn the reptile. So I started just going to Don Keenan down in Atlanta. And that's where we started learning it, and learning stuff from Andrew Finkelstein, and learning stuff from the Nick Rowleys and Rick Friedmans of the world, and taking it all in with the sort of, I don't know if it's like naive belief or ego or whatever you want to call it, that we too could do it if we learned and were committed. It's not easy, but it's doable.
Yeah, look, but that's what I'm saying too, is that what's awesome about this community, and just in general, the conversations I've had since joining the community with people in the community, or that I'm telling, look, you got to join the community, is be whatever you want to be. And there is a formula and path to get to that. So like John Fisher's perfect example. John came up to us after one of the mastermind experiences. He's like, I felt so guilty. I love trying cases. And both Craig Goldenfarb and I were like, look, don't stop trying cases to be a CEO. You're going to be miserable. Just get yourself a CEO. They're out there. Pay them what they're worth. It's no different than paying a high-level trial attorney, right? Pay them what they're worth. Let somebody else do the stuff they love to do, which is the data, the KPIs, the systems, the people, the culture, all of that stuff. And that's what's awesome about your community, because there's a lot of newer attorneys, new law firm owners in there, right? And they hear stuff like the stuff that we talk about, or the mastermind they go to, and they get inspired. Like I went to your conference. I said, listen, I'm here to see what you guys did and how you did it, I'm not going to be the guy trying the case. I'm building a silo. I know myself. I am self-aware enough to know what I'm great at and what I'm not great at. But I think that's where Best Era really shines, is that you provide a forum where I talk to so many lawyers every day, young, brand new firm owners, all the way up, super experienced, but don't have that understanding yet of what they want to do, right? I've spoken to an owner in the past who's in his 60s, and he's like, I think I want to build a business, but I'm really good at trial work. And like, fundamentally, that's the key to the people doing it at the highest level in whatever the endeavor is. Like, Finkelstein is a killer trial lawyer. The guy loves it. The guy, and he happens to be a brilliant businessman together, but he is like the freak of all freaks because he's both. Right.
Yes.
He's both. And to me, that's amazing what he does. Right. So but I think that's the niche for Best Era, that there's something for everybody. And it really is, it helps you, it meets you where you are. Right. There's something for me on my path to 8 figures. There's something for somebody at 750 on his path to 1 million. And then there's something for the trial lawyers that want to excel at trial work.
And that's the hope, and and it's interesting to see this come full circle. I think the person that we never believed we could be was Andrew Finkelstein. Like he was the Jordan that was just such a freak. But Andrew has been a good friend, and Andrew taught my focus group stuff at Keenan Trial Institute, so I got to learn from him. I was in a class with Chris Finney, who's a fantastic lawyer out in Missouri, and also learned business stuff from Andrew as well at John Fisher's mastermind. He is definitely one of one in that respect. And
yeah, absolutely. Amazing. And listen, but and again, that's the value creation coming full circle. Like, I'm not going to start learning and recreating the wheel on how to run focus groups. I'm going to hire you. I'm going to have you train and systematize everything within my team. And it's like kind of the last piece of the puzzle, because I'm old school. Like, I think I told you on the phone, when I was doing it, you went in, you picked a jury, you tried the case, right? There was no focus groups. It wasn't a science the way you got, but that's why you guys are all ringing those bells at multiple 7, 8, 9-figure verdicts, because now it's more of a science on both sides. The same way the carriers got sophisticated on data, the plaintiffs got sophisticated on the science of trial work. And really, and you've done it at the highest level. So why wouldn't I say, hey, Ryan, help me make this the best I can make it. Give me my best era, my best 10-year clip from 55 to 65. And let me see my vision for a killer trial team doing special stuff. Help me see that to fruition. And that's I got goosebumps right now talking about it, because I know how highly you've spoken about focus groups and their role in these verdicts and outcomes and all of that. So yeah, I think it's super exciting. It's super exciting that we're going to be working together in that regard, and that you're offering not only yourself, but the best of everything and everybody on your team that you've done for all these years to a community that is, it's starting out, but man, like, the potential is huge for this community. So, and it's huge for the people that are in it. Like, I know the players, I know you, I know your wife on the data analytics side and the KPI stuff that you guys have done behind the scenes, and Brittany with your marketing. Like, I've studied it. I have studied you and everything that you've done. So people that are in the community are lucky, and anybody listening to this, just sign up. Just sign up. What's the worst that happens? It's $1,000 after August 1st. What's the worst that happens? You're guaranteed going to learn something that's going to pay for that, probably in your first week of membership. I'm not going to guarantee it, but you probably will, within your first week of membership, realize a multiple ROI on that investment.
Well, thank you, Tom.
So listen, man, I wish you the best of luck. I'm super excited. I am super excited for you. And I'm super excited to be part of the group. I'm going to try to give as much value as I can as a member, because I feel like I get so much out of it already.
Awesome.
Really, it's just been awesome.
And Ryan, are you able to send me the MailChimp landing page so I can leave it in the show notes for anybody who wants to sign up? Or
Absolutely, Jules. That's
awesome,
greatly appreciated.
of course.
Yep. And listen, Ryan, and I'll be in touch with you about the trial work we're going to start working on. But I appreciate everything you do. And I'm super excited about this law school thing. I'm kind of hoping Hofstra Law or Thoreau in Long Island will reach out to somebody like me and be like, hey, I think what they're doing at UConn is pretty cutting edge. Listen, adjunct professors don't do it for the money. They do it for the love of teaching. I know that. But again, I think it's brilliant because you're kind of laying the foundation for a successive generations of new lawyers to do things differently. Just be better. Just be better at what we do.
Well, and that's it, right? And I've mentioned some of the people whose shoulders that I've stood on over the years, whether it's Jay Ruane or Lee Rosen or Andrew Finkelstein or Don Keenan or Billy Tarasio or a whole host of other folks. My hope in all this is that somebody in some of those classes takes it and just does it way better. Way better than I could have done it. And, I hope I'm fortunately young enough that I should live long enough to see some of that. And I think that excites me. But also, look, academic things are like the NFL. When one team does it, the other teams start doing it. So maybe that Ebony Nelson has invested in it. She goes to conferences, the class gets well received, and hopefully it starts spreading. I was actually talking with John Nackhazel about this, and John was just like, there's all sorts. There's masters in hospital management and masters in nonprofit. Why don't we have like a master's in law firm management? I was like, that's a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because my law firm integrator, I never even realized this. 20 years into knowing her, I looked at her resume because I don't even think I read her resume back in the day when I hired her. But I look at Janira's resume. I'm like, oh, she's got a bachelor's in law firm management, right? Yeah, she got a bachelor's degree in it. And because she was a paralegal, she got her bachelor's degree and it was in law firm management. So I was like, that's why she's so brilliant at what she does. She had all this training before she even became a paralegal, or like right in the middle of it. So, I think it's a constant evolution, right? I think that anybody that contributes to the well-being of lawyers, I feel that law in general and lawyers are a suffering community, and they don't need to be. You can do things differently. You can run it like a business, or you could be the trial wizard, and you don't have to. I mean, there's depression, suicide, all of those things is rampant with lawyers. So anybody that does something like what you're doing, what you, your wife, and Brittany are doing to make things better for lawyers, easier for lawyers, avoid hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in mistakes, you got to embrace it with open arms, right? Because you're going to change things for the better for an entire community of people that, the lawyers don't need to suffer. There are communities like this. And so I think that it's brilliant. You're starting it the right way. You're doing it the right way. So thank you again. I think it's a very noble mission as well. So I appreciate you.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for being a friend. Thank you, Jules, for having me on.
Absolutely. Hey, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. You can find us wherever podcasts are distributed. You can subscribe and leave us a 5-star review, maybe 6 stars if you're excited about what you just heard. This episode is brought to you by TonaLaw, personal injury firm in Long Island, New York. Give us a shout to become a referral partner from anywhere in the U.S. We pay fee participation in every jurisdiction where it's permitted. And LuvvvSocials, which is Juliet Accomando's newly formed social media management company. Jules is one of the editors and producers of this podcast and also handles all of the social media for TonaLaw, and she's just a whiz. And it's LuvvvSocials, and we'll put a link in how you contact Jules in the show notes as well.
Yep. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Thank you for listening, guys.
All right.